We can't get started for real. Live podcast, people. Hey, everybody, I'm Jason Ashcraft. Welcome to a Thursday night edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, where we are talking our 1-1 tie against Tigres, the giants of Mexican football who came up to face FC Cincinnati in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. We're also going to be previewing the Toronto FC match on Saturday, and we also have Tyler Terrens from Apple TV to talk about MLS Season Pass. So a big show for you all tonight. Let's meet our cast of characters. First of all, let's introduce our guest here to talk a little bit about Tigres, Alfred. Alfred, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing very good. Honored to be with you guys. Thank you for the invite.
We're happy to have you here. Also, down to my bottom right, we have Jose. Jose, how's it going, buddy?
We're here. We're here. Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it. And Alfred, nice seeing you again.
Yeah, it's
Likewise.
always great to see Jose. And Justin Blair on the ones and twos helping me out with everything backstage. Justin, how's it going tonight?
It was going the first go around. I just forgot to hit go live. So that's totally on me. I'll take that. Yeah, I'll have to improve. But thanks for having me on, Jason. This is I'm excited about tonight's show.
Well, you were the one who set everything up, so really, thank you. Before we get started, we want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Apollo Home. If you were anything like us, Saturday's result back against Philadelphia took you off guard, but don't let your home's plumbing, electrical, HVAC needs take the wind out of your sails. This March, Apollo Home is waiving the service charge for all CST fans. That means a highly trained Apollo technician will come out for a free in-home estimate for any plumbing, drainage, electrical, or HVAC concern. Don't wait. Schedule online at apollohome.com or give them a call before the offer is gone with the wind. We're going to have to update the puns in that one, but a big shout out and big thank you to Apollo Home. Guys, big time out at TQL Stadium on Tuesday night. Tigres comes up to visit for a CONCACAF Champions Cup tilt. Real quick, before we get into the details of the match, we're going to do our best and worst. And since, Alfred, you are our guest, why don't you give us your best and worst for the night?
Well, obviously referring to my Tigres, I think the best was definitely the result. We wanted to get at least a tie like we did. And obviously scoring an away goal is very important in these type of two-leg matches. So I believe, with having just 2 days of preparation under the new head coach, Guido Pizarro, it was not a bad result, given also the fact that we had 8 absences. I mean, 7 from injuries plus Pizarro, who retired to be our coach. So it was a very improvised squad, but at the same time, they held their own. And I'm also very happy that Ibanez, our striker, scored after I don't know how long. It seemed like almost a year ago that we last saw him score. It seemed that under the last tenure, he wasn't feeling very confident, and now with Guido Pizarro at the helm, he definitely got his mojo back or something, right? So he got his goal in, and we're happy for him. Now Will had an excellent performance, so a few good things that came out of this game.
Great. And best and worst, Jose, give us what you got.
Well, the best, I think, was Roman kept us in the game. I mean, he had some key saves there. So, I think he's back to the form, the Roman that we're used to, the shot stopper, and I was very happy to see that. But also, Orellano, I mean, when he came in, you could tell. I mean, he even though he hasn't really trained or played, there's the quality, and I'm hoping to see a lot more of that as he gets back into fitness. My worst is Hadebe, who let Ibanez score. And after what you just said, that he hadn't scored in a while, well, it's really my worst then.
It's good that you mentioned Orellano because he was part of my best for the week, because we finally got to see that trio of Dinke, Evander, and Luca all up top. And while it only lasted, 15 minutes before Evander go out, that, guys, looked to me like something was cooking. Once Orishano came in and around the 50th minute, I think it was, or the 65th minute, he came on, immediately started doing some creative stuff, and it looked like what we were hoping it would look like. Now, Evander got elbowed in the kidney or something like that, had to leave the match. Hopefully he's back Saturday, but that was my best of the week. My worst of the week, and I don't know how FOTMob has this man with a 7.1 rating for the match, but Lucas Engel, his passing was just atrocious. I can't tell. I was sitting next to Brad Weigel, former one of the hosts of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, and he and I were just pointing out how many bad passes the dude had. And I don't know if it was a communication issue, but it was a rare off night for Engel for FC Cincinnati. Justin, I see you typing there. I'm going to be real mean and ask you, what is your best and worst of the week?
That's all right. That's all right. My best was pretty easy. It was the first time I've had the opportunity. My son's 4 years old, and it was the first opportunity I got to take him down to the ball game. First ever FC Cincinnati match. We went to the Bailey. We sat front and center. It was a blast. Got banners, got the flags, but he was toting the cotton candy, the popcorn, and the M&Ms the whole night. So it was just fun. We just basically explored the stadium while the match was being played. Just really soaking in that cherishing that opportunity. And when Buka scored that goal, I mean, there's no better feeling I've ever felt than giving my son a high five at a sporting event. Something me and my dad have done so often in basketball. So that was something I'll cherish for the rest of my life. My worst is the 3 blades of grass that kept the ball in play for Tigres on that cross. I was like, I can't believe he got there. Hats off to Cordova on that. That was a ridiculous run to the end line, and to be able to cross it on a dime to the far post was just incredible. So worse for me as a FC Cincinnati fan.
Yeah. Did your son learn any fun new words while sitting in the Bailey?
No, because when the boo birds and the cards started coming out, we were already playing foosball behind the Bailey. So
okay. There's a certain referee chant that I don't think you want your son.
No.
All right, let's dive into this match real quick. Let's go with FC Cincinnati's starting lineup. Obviously, Roma Celentano in the goal. Your back 3 was Teenage Hadibi, Miles Robinson, and Flores. Your wing backs were Engel and Yedlin. The typical midfield of Buka and Obi, and then up top you had Evander, Kubo, and Denke. Guys, it looked like this was the best possible lineup that FC Cincinnati could roll out. So going into this match, Jose, how were you feeling when you saw this lineup?
Well, I felt pretty good, but Kubo hasn't been playing well. So I had my doubts there, but there was nothing we can do. I mean, the right now with Orellano still coming back, Miazga, of course, in the back line, I just wasn't sure if he was going to be able to deliver, and he didn't. But overall, when I saw this, okay, this is the best lineup we have right now. Pretty solid in the back. In the middle, we got Buka and Obi. That's great. Disrupting, creating. The wings, Yedlin. I have my thoughts on Yedlin, but that's another story. So I thought this is a really strong lineup. So I was a little disappointed in the overall score. Now, we had opportunities. There were several opportunities that just didn't go in. But overall, I thought, okay, this is the best we can do right now, given some of the injuries we've had. So I was very optimistic, and unfortunately, the score didn't come our way. But credit to Tigres, by the way. Credit to Tigres.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me to Alfred. You mentioned how many Tigres players, and y'all, it's a Spanish-speaking country. You get to hear my weird Appalachian accent, butcher Spanish words tonight. I'm so sorry. But when you saw how many players were not going to be available for this trip, kind of what were your thoughts when they rolled out their lineup?
Well, I mean, for starters, I mean, we've been playing without a few of those
Mm-hmm.
players for quite a few games now.
Yeah.
I think the only one that, or the only two that were added to the list of absentees were Diego Lainez, who pretty much had been our best winger during
Mm-hmm.
the whole season, and Guido Pizarro, who played 90 minutes on Saturday, woke up Sunday morning being our coach. So, that's really the only big difference as far as from the past few games. So we were ready. We knew what we were up against. We knew that it was going to be a challenge for Guido Pizarro, especially since he actually came out with a new formation. Under Paunovic, we were pretty much stuck on the 4-4-2 or 4-3-3. But now Guido Pizarro came out with a back line of three, or a back line of five, if you may call it that way. In the end, I mean, we were surprised seeing Purata as one of our defense CBs. He hadn't played in a long time, and you could tell. I mean, he was nervous. I think part of the reason that first goal, that we conceded was because Purata just wasn't able. He couldn't figure out where he was on the field. But in the end, I mean, they held their own. Sometimes when you get an early goal like that, it's easy to crumble. But the guys, I mean, they rose to the occasion, and they were able to lift themselves up.
Your scoring was opened by Pavel Buka on a nice little layoff, if I remember it correctly, by Kevin Denke in the 5th minute or so, or third minute. And then, of course, Ibanez, I think I'm getting that right, in the 17th minute, scores it and ties it up for Tigres. It gets that crucial away goal for you all, which just had a bunch of us kicking the seat in front of us. Justin, what do you think about this match? It was really physical. Do you think that that's just maybe the style of play for CONCACAF, or do you think maybe it was the FC Cincinnati not really gelling quite yet? Kind of give us your thoughts on that.
I think, yeah. I mean, when you're playing CONCACAF matches, you're just playing with a wildly unfamiliar foe. So when you get in situations like that, the pace may not be something you're used to in particular situations on turns and stuff like that. So you're seeing a lot of the jersey pulls, the rough tackles and stuff like that, because you're just, I mean, not that you like have training with the Philadelphia Union, but you're a little bit more accustomed to what Kai Wagner is going to do with the ball than you are, say, a Cordova or any number of players on Tigres' team. So for it to be a physical affair, I was a little bit more shocked coming from a Tigres side. I thought that Cincinnati would kind of be trying to stay a little bit in front of Tigres at times and get a little bit physical, but there was a lot of moments where FC Cincinnati was able to turn. I know the goal that Pavel Buka scored, that the referee was willing to call the foul right there at the edge of the box. And that would have been one of those, was he in, was he not in the box kind of situation. So, I mean, you saw a clear physical play from both teams. And I think it's probably just the unfamiliarity that's ultimately the cause.
I mentioned it earlier. We did get to see Luca Orishano come on in the 65th minute, I believe it was. Which brings me to the next match, because now Luca is available for selection. On Tuesday, FC Cincinnati goes down to Monterrey to face Tigres in their home stadium, and what I'm assuming, no doubt, will be a raucous atmosphere. One of the toughest places to play in all of Mexico. Jose, what do you think of Orishano? Do you think we're going to see him start here on out, or your thoughts on that?
I mean, if I'm Pat Noonan, and obviously I'm not, but if I'm him, thinking, okay, I put him in for 15, 20 minutes. He looked good. I probably wouldn't start him in the beginning. I mean, with Toronto. Also, we have to think about the fatigue factor. Orellana hasn't been out there on the field 90 minutes. So get him back into the game gradually, put him in again as a sub on the Toronto game, Now that assumes, right, that we're controlling the game more or less with Toronto, but you know, sometimes this team tends to play down to the level of the team they're playing. So hopefully, FCC will have that sense of urgency at the beginning, try to control the game from the beginning, and then put him in to give him more minutes. I would be nervous putting him in from the start right now because we have that match in Monterrey, which is going to be really, really tough. I mean, they have to travel. There's the altitude. There's obviously the ambiance, which is just, it's a boiler room in there. So that would be my thought, that just put him in as a sub, rest him a little bit, so that when they go to Monterrey, maybe then you do make him a starter, depending on how he performs and how his fitness is.
And let's go over the scenarios for advancement for Tuesday real quick. For FC Cincinnati to advance, they need to either win outright, get a 1-1 draw and win on PKs, or score 2 or more goals in a draw. For Tigres, it's a lot easier. They can get a 0-0 draw and they win, they advance. They could win outright and then a 1-1 draw, win on PKs. Alfred, as we get ready for this next match on Tuesday, do you think there's going to be maybe any changes to the lineup? Any of the injured players making a comeback?
The only one that we've heard that is possibly ready to even play tomorrow in our league match against Querétaro is Linus. Aside from that, the rest of the injured players are still on IR. It wouldn't change much what Guido Pizarro would present on Tuesday. If that's still the case, I think only Linus might come in, maybe for Marcelo Flores, who did not have a good game, I believe on Tuesday versus Cincinnati. So I think he would fill that gap. Aside from that, I think you would probably be seeing the exact same lineup that was presented this week.
Another question for you, Alfred, because you did have the coaching change, 3 days before the match against Cincinnati? Yeah. If you were to give him a grade for the first game, what would you have given him?
An 8. The thing is that, despite obviously, we did not get a win. We are away. We did not have a lot of key players. It is a tough game being a CONCACAF match, and you only have 2 days of training. How much can you expect? So it was really very positive to see that the entire squad was actually playing with more confidence. They were more fluent. There was more possession in the ball under Paunovic. We were pretty much letting our rivals do whatever they want with the ball, and there was no style of play. So now we saw something different that we hadn't seen, despite being in third place in our league. Like we were not satisfied with our previous coach. So I believe that Guido is going to do well, and hopefully that means that for my team at least, that we win next Tuesday as well.
Well, I was actually impressed on how well you were moving the ball. I mean, your line seemed to be communicating very well, and considering the number of players you had out, that was pretty impressive.
The thing is that our team, for the longest time, has been a possession-based team. Always. I mean, under Tuca Ferretti, who was our coach for years, we were used to having games of possession of 70%, 80%. So this team, these players, the majority of these players are accustomed to having the ball. So when you put them in a style of play where, you're pretty much letting the rival have the ball, the opponent have the ball, that's when they lose confidence. That's not what they're used to. So going back to their roots, going back to their bases, I think that's the reason why they were gelling well.
Makes a lot of sense.
Justin, as we head into this match down in Monterrey against Tigres, how you feeling? Temp check for this upcoming match. Do you think FC Cincinnati has a puncher's chance, or do you think this is the end of the road for CONCACAF Champions Cup?
I think we can do it. I mean, it's a crazy environment, right? It is no Gillette Stadium. It is no Soldier Field. So you're going to get a ruckus crowd, but FC Cincinnati's used to that, right? Going up to maybe a smaller venue, but going up there to Columbus, that's always loud and intimidating type environment. We've had matches, in a pretty packed out place in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, the environment, the situation is probably not going to intimidate FC Cincinnati's players and staff. But it's just, tip your hat to Tigres. They're ready to ball, right? And I think with Diego Lainez back in the lineup, presumably, right, you would see a better showing on the attacking front. And if that momentum swings, if FC Cincinnati's signature 20 minutes of press at the beginning crumbles and Tigres is allowed to survive that, that's dead fish in the water. But I think FC Cincinnati has a puncher's chance for sure. I think we have a really good chance. We need to clean some things up.
Yeah. As we wrap this segment up about the CONCACAF Champions Cup, we do want to thank Alfred so much for his time. Alfred, if there are any folks going down to the match in Monterrey, is there something that they need to see or do that you would recommend for any of the tourists?
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure you guys, you might know San Antonio's Riverwalk. Monterrey has its own Riverwalk. It's called Paseo Santa Lucia. Very beautiful. So if you happen to be downtown Monterrey, that's probably the place where you want to go. But aside from that, obviously we're a city of mountains, so there's plenty to do for people that are into hiking or into just the outdoors. We obviously have the Cerro de la Silla, which is the main mountain that's displayed in any other pictures of Monterrey that can be hiked. But there's also Chipinque, which has beautiful views, and Obispado, which is probably for somebody that's not adapt to going a long ways in a hike or too long, but it gets you some good views of the city. And if not, we also have some caves an hour away, Grutas de Garcia,
that's right,
where they can also have some nice activities there.
Well, Alfred, thank you so much for your time. Where can FC Cincinnati fans find you and all of your outlets?
Sure. Well, you can find me on Twitter usually. That's where I spend most of my time, at Tigres Takes. That's how I'm there. And we also have, like you guys mentioned, obviously our podcast, La U Times podcast, that we record every Monday night, and we talk about our favorite team.
All right, great. Alfred, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Really happy to have you on.
Thank you guys for inviting me.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alfred.
Well, that wraps it up for our segment on the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Fellas, once again, I want to get kind of real quick. I know we mentioned before we get Tyler Terrens on, with the result on Tuesday, were you disappointed? Did you think that this was a win, or were you happy with the draw?
I was not happy with the draw. In fact, when we scored that early, and I thought, okay, I think we can control this. Maybe we can score a couple of other ones, and then of course came the tie, and after it became pretty much of a stalemate. Yeah, I think FCC played well. We're still seeing some things that need to be polished out, but in general, I think they played well. But again, credit to Tigres that with 7 or 8 players out, they maintained that tie. But I was disappointed.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those classic, like, what were your expectations going into the match, and then what were your expectations after the first 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So you started dreaming real big after Buka scored that goal. But I think I posted it in our Slack. I think it feels like it's a 1-1, maybe a 2-1, and we came close to a 2-1 result for FC Cincinnati. So even with a 2-1 victory, there's still work to do on the road, right? Like, you just have to survive. They score that goal, you're back level, and they have the away goal. So there's really no safe space unless you get a 2-0, 3-0 result in that first leg. So I think you are always going to have to roll up your sleeves and take one down in Monterrey. So I'm glad that we didn't concede that other goal. And to what Jose had mentioned before, being able to have Roman Celentano bail us out on several opportunities there in that dying moment. So that I know there was like that one from the 83rd minute where
I know. I thought,
it
oh
was
my
just
God,
serious.
here it
Yeah,
comes.
yeah. Thought it was because
He
that's what
beats,
happened to Monterrey, right?
Yeah.
They obviously Monterrey was playing a man down last year in that CONCACAF
I had
match, but
PTSD from 2022, and we would lose or tie those games up in the last possible second. And,
yeah,
oh no.
yeah. So no, I felt like my expectations were met for the match.
I think for me, it wasn't, and granted, we've mentioned this a dozen times so far, but knowing that Monterrey doesn't have their best 11 out there, but they're still a very good club, just based on who they or Tigres, I should say. Yeah, Alfred would have killed me if he heard me call them Monterrey.
Yeah.
Knowing that Tigres are who they are, and even though they didn't have their best 11 out there, I still felt like it was a very even game between the two teams. Tigres had like slightly more possession.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the thing that is most disappointing was that not that they beat us on like a really great goal or something. It was Teenage Hadibi did not jump.
Yeah.
He stood there.
Yeah.
He was beat to be fair to Teenage, though. He was beat to that spot, right?
He was.
He would have had to foul the guy to push him off that spot or jump like
you think
an
so?
Olympian.
I've seen the replay a couple of times, and it just seemed to be like not
He was
necessarily standing still.
He
but,
was flat-footed because he was backpedaling, trying to figure out, is that ball going out? What was more concerning about Teenage there, and I know we've been praising Roman, is Roman getting beat to the near post. How many times have we listened to, like, I didn't play, just to let everybody know, I didn't play soccer, so I'm no expert, but all the experts in the world have said you never get beat near post. You never, and I've always been the guy that's like, but like a lot more goal that way. Like, and then to see him get beat near post, I was kind of like, kind of see what they're talking about.
Last question, and we'll put a pin on the and Renee is right. Hoping Evander gets more touches on the ball. Hoping he comes back on Saturday after his slight injury. Question I brought up on the Monday show. I will bring it back up to you two, and then we'll put a pin on the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Do you focus on the game against Tigres and maybe rest some people against Toronto, or is it league over everything, Jose?
I think you rest some players for Toronto. I mean, personally, I think it's important that FCC start making its mark internationally and getting some hardware. CONCACAF, or hopefully next time we can play the Club World Cup. I think it's important. It's important for the team to be better known, not just locally, but nationally and maybe even internationally. So to me, rest some players on Saturday. Not too much though that Toronto runs over us, but just kind of control the game in Toronto. I mean, against Toronto, and then put the best possible 11 you can against Tigres, because it's going to be a tough game there in Monterrey.
Justin, same question to you. Do you agree with Jose, or do you think your focus needs to be on Toronto?
Absolutely not. No, I'm going the full Insigne route here with Toronto SC. Forgotten, just forget about it. We're not even can't be concerned with it. No, I think you have to. You obviously have to put on something that can muster out a point, right? You're playing at home. Pat nailed home, or Pat. That's kind of ironic there. Pat nailed it in our heads that they really have to improve on home matches in MLS play. Last year it was very disappointing, our record at home. So and we've probably talked at nauseum. There is not a single person. I mean, there's probably a few, but there's not a single person that's more competitive than Pat Noonan as a manager in MLS. He wants to win them all. He's greedy. He wants to win every match. But I think you saw it with the Philadelphia game with some of the rotation that we had there. I think they build a roster to win cups, and it's important to chase cups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to qualify for the playoffs. That's sign, seal, deliver right now at the beginning of March. But you have to be able to go after trophies and fill that cupboard, as you were talking about.
Well, FC Cincinnati plays Tigres on Tuesday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And before we bring in our next guest, we want to give another big shout out to our other sponsor, Beyond Exercise, a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they've helped some of our local MLS, MLS Next, and FCC Academy players on their health and performance needs. Check out their entire suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. Now we want to bring in a very special guest from Apple TV, from MLS Season Pass, Tyler Terrens. He will be our play-by-play broadcaster on Saturday against Toronto FC. Tyler's been with Apple TV and MLS Season Pass since their launch. He also hosts various radio shows on Sirius XM FC channel 157. And before joining Apple TV, Tyler was the play-by-play announcer for the Chicago Fire. Tyler, thanks for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. When I got the text that you guys are moving it to 9:30, I was like, these are my kind of people. These are soccer night owls. This is the only way to talk about soccer into the wee hours of the night. I love it.
Justin's the only one of us that has kids, so the rest of us can stay up late. Tyler, before we start talking about this upcoming match, a little birdie tells me you used to be the voice of Phoenix Rising in the USL. Recently, I think it was a week or two ago, USL announced that they're looking at possibly starting a Division I league. As someone who has some experience with the USL, what do you think? Do you think this is something that maybe was a long time coming? Do you think this is maybe not really a good idea? Kind of give us your thoughts on that.
I don't know, and I know that's a lame answer. But I don't want to sit here and say like this is the end all be all. This is going to force MLS to do X, Y, and Z. And like, I spent 3 incredible years covering the USL, and I called probably 350 to 400 USL games in 3 years. 398 of them were all offsite in a studio at Vista World Link. If you guys are familiar with that down in Florida, where a lot of broadcasts now are out of. So I didn't see a ton, but what I did see, I was like, man, like this is incredible. Like these small subsidiary, tertiary American cities, whatever you want to call it. And like, there is like an incredible appetite for soccer. And Phoenix was different because Phoenix was close to being an MLS expansion side. I mean, they had their main billionaire owner drop out at the 12th hour when I believe Nashville ended up getting their bid. I think it was either Nashville, Miami. It was around that time. But the first division stuff, that stuff is intriguing to me because to get the setup of Pro Rel, and I interviewed Jake Edwards, the former USL president, during the 2019 final when Louisville City was playing the Monarchs. And he said even before COVID started that they wanted to get Pro Rel going now. And Landon Donovan was there and the whole thing. And they were really excited about it. COVID happens and the whole world gets blown up, flipped on its head, and whatever ambitions you have of that go away. But now this, to add it into the Pro Rel stuff, and keep in mind, the Pro Rel for USL basically got voted down without the first division. Now it's being brought back up again. If you get enough billionaires, and in America we're chock full of them, if you get enough billionaires to sign up, like this thing could get legs. And then if you have a proper setup of divisions 1 through 3, who knows? Who knows? But this is going to take a long time. And the other thing too, guys, that you have to keep in mind is that big reason why I think that this fell apart the first time and why I think it'll continue to struggle to really take off is because the smaller clubs that exist, some of them just don't want to be in the running for promotion. The Richmond Kickers, I don't think they have any desire to move up in the ranks and to.
Well, they
and
self-relegated themselves down to Division
Exactly.
3. Yeah,
exactly. They don't want to have to abide by the 15,000 person stadium and the broadcast regulations that need to be equipped within the stadium and all the extra money that they're going to have to spend. They're fine with their margins. They're fine with where they are in the pyramid, and who's to blame them? So I think that there's a lot that needs to go into this. You need a number of different owners who are going to pony up for the first division, and then you also need the intrigue and the desire and the ambition from the lower division owners to say, okay, we're finally bought in. Because if you have a bunch of teams, because if the Richmond Kickers decide to play but don't want to get promoted and they win every single year, then they defer, then this whole concept of promotion relegation is cutting off your nose to spite your face, because whoever deserves to be promoted actually doesn't want it. So then you're just giving it to the team that actually doesn't deserve it. So anyway, I think that it's a long way to go, but it's fascinating. It really is.
I think it would be funny to see USL get Division 1 just to see what DC or Detroit City fans say about it. With the shoehorning about MLS the whole time, and now they're the big boys.
But if it's not Major League Soccer, though, they're fine with it as long as it's under the umbrella of USL in its first division. Then that's fine. That goes by the
rules. But speaking of Division 1, now this is a different Division 1. I saw that you had done play-by-play for the Vermont Catamounts years ago. Did you catch any of the NCAA finals?
Oh, I followed them the whole way.
Yes, sir.
The whole way. I love the people up in Burlington, man. And I actually was an analyst for an NCAA tournament soccer game for them. So when I lived in Burlington for 7 months in 2016-17 basketball season, I was the voice of the women's basketball team on 6:20 a.m. WVMT. That was the first real job that I got out of school, and I'm a hoops kid by heart. You know, my dad's a huge Knicks fan. My grandpa is. I grew up playing basketball, loving it. That was my first true love. Cool. But I was the analyst for an NCAA tournament game, having played Division III myself, and I just find it funny that like I went from doing that, and they had just barely scraped by Ryder at the time, and then they got their doors blown off in the second round, and to see them be the national champions, and like, you know, all these people that I worked with, and there are some incredible human beings who work up there. It's really, really cool what they were able to pull off. So
it's a great community. And that with their club, their amateur club up that way, it's. They really have really nested something up in Burlington.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about MLS and MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Earlier this season, before we get into the Toronto FC game, earlier this season it was announced that TKO and WWE Studios were working with MLS Season Pass. Now, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, so that made my ears perk up. But Tyler, have you noticed any like changes to how things are done now that kind of change has been made, or is it
doesn't affect us at all, because that's like the studio guys and Kalen and that whole amazing crew who put on MLS 360. But yeah, I'm on the road every weekend, and yeah, it has zero effect on me. So I have no idea what's going on over there.
Just a PO box change.
Yeah, I'm just the voice who, you know, I'd put me on a flight, send me my itinerary, I'll go call the game, and let's run it back in a few days. That's it.
That's awesome. From where you sit, how has Messi changed the MLS in terms of attracting new fans and raising the level of play, if any?
I think that it's automatically just given an extra level of attention from a media standpoint to MLS. It's automatically made MLS a couple of steps higher on the list of some younger and even older players to come and play, both while he's here and after he's gone. The after he's gone effect, obviously, we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, if the greatest of all time is doing it, then clearly it can't be that lame, right? And because for a long time, and even still, there are plenty of leagues and sporting directors and clubs who might not rate MLS and think that it's a joke or whatever it might be. But if Messi's coming to do it, then clearly it can't be all that bad. So I think that, you know, obviously Inter Miami's attracted some incredible talent and people want to play with him while he's still playing. I get that. But I also think that the Denkes, the Manuel Latte Lots, I don't think that those signings happen as quickly as they do. It's not to say that they never would have come to MLS. I don't think that they happen in 2025 without Messi being here. I could be wrong on that. I just feel that way, that he's elevated the status just from the cool kids are doing it, everybody else is going to do it, right? And Messi's the coolest kid at school. So I think it's been pretty incredible.
Okay. So, by the way, Tyler, I'm Jose Guerra. I'm fairly new here to the CST writing staff, and when they get desperate and they don't have anybody, they say, "Hey, can you come on the show?"
I understand the feeling. I totally get it, Jose. I get it.
So we're now in year 3 of MLS Season Pass. How do you feel about the day-to-day operations? I mean, is it fairly settled? Are you guys still learning? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that we're in year 3, like you said, and for me, they've done a really good job of making each show as universal as possible, right? So it doesn't matter who the commentators are, who the producer is, who the director is, who the crew is on site. Everybody understands what's asked of them. The run of show has ultimately remained the same outside of the first year of like maybe mixing and matching a couple of different things early on and figuring out what works and what doesn't. But those were minor speed bumps that we hit.
Okay.
It's been pretty straightforward for me, and I'm a huge call the game guy, right? Like I just want to call the action. I want to talk about a beautiful buildup between Evander and Denke, and then find an angle out on the wing, and then the cutback for Evander at the edge of the. That's my speed. The rest of it is sort of like up to them, and I will do my paid reads. I'll engage my analyst, and I want to call the game. That's it for me, and I think that they've put us in a really good position to do that.
Speaking of the buildup between Evander and Denke this weekend, you're calling TFC versus FC Cincinnati. What have you seen from? Have you gotten a chance to watch any FCC so far? And what have you seen with that combo and with what FCC has brought to the table so far?
Yeah. So just so you guys know, I don't know if you do know this, but I live here. I live in Loveland. And I was at the game. I was at the game on Tuesday night because I also am going to be calling the second leg against Tigres for Fox on Tuesday. So I'm headed out to LA, and then I have you guys again against Charlotte. So you've got me 3 times in a row, unfortunately. So if you get sick of me, I don't blame you. Hit the mute button or turn on Tommy G, whatever you want to do. So I saw the game on Tuesday, and obviously Denke jumps off the page just in terms of what he's able to bring to the table, and the number 9 that you guys have been, starved of since the whole Penza fiasco, right? Evander, I was having this conversation. We had our pre-production call with Pat today. Evander doesn't operate at a full sprint ever. Like as Pat would say, it's like there's no high speed actions in his game, and he's like, well, we do want to get more out of him, but like, if he's doing what he's doing and he's dribbling around 4 guys and he's one of those guys that's faster with the ball than he is without, and he's going to cut people up like that and set up goals and score, then are you really going to try to change too much of who he is? Like I enjoy that about Evander, and it's different than the way that Lucho operated, right? Like it's not the same. With that said, you can't really ask for a much better in terms of impact in the game, like for replacing Lucho. I think that was as good as you were going to do in market and how last minute the whole thing was. Defensively, I thought Flores was phenomenal against Tigres. Couple of passes missed here and there, but like for me to be engaged in that kind of battle against one of the best teams in North America, like bravo, young man, 21 years of age, 5th game in this continent, like that's big time.
Yes.
I'm super bullish on Cincy, not just because I live here, but because I picked them to finish second in the Eastern Conference. They'll properly challenge Miami, I think, for the Supporter Shield. I'm really, really high on this group, but obviously there are some things that need to come to fruition. You have to get Matt Miazga healthy. You have to integrate Luka back into the side. And then I also think that there's probably one or two more pieces to be added either in the summer or before the primary transfer window closes. Just as far as depth, right? I mean, like who doesn't want more depth? And it's difficult to get it in this league, but man, like that performance against Tigres, if you score if you scored the second and third chance, and particularly the Denke chance, you're in a great spot going down to Mexico. And it's not to say you can't pull it off on Tuesday night, but it just makes the task that much more difficult. Not for nothing, there should have been at least another 5 or 6 more minutes of stoppage time. And I joked about that with Pat, and I didn't want to piss him off before the call, but I was like, how about that stoppage time? And he kind of gave me this look. He was like, let's not go there right now.
I'm curious because I used to work in media relations in college sports. So I've dealt with a lot of coaches and stuff over the years. I'm curious, as a journalist or as somebody who covers the team, when you're dealing with Pat Noonan, because he has a very stoic face, shall we say. Are you ever like thinking to yourself, I know I really want to ask this question, but I also really, really don't want to tick him off and get on his bad side?
That's not really in my DNA or in my personality to sort of hold back like that. However, I do know that there are some coaches I need to be careful of with it. Pat, fortunately, I've gotten to know him a little bit here and there, and I got to actually spend some time with his son while I was helping out with the Shop Like a Pro initiative that they have at Dick's Sporting Goods each year, which, of course, was started by Marvin Lewis and the Bengals, and Jeff Birding sort of took it over and it's a great initiative. We had a blast. So I've gotten to know him a little bit to know that, like, this stoic nature and this sort of really dry humor, he's not somebody who you can really like tick off for my money. And as long as you do your homework and you know what you're talking about, like he'll answer you and he'll maybe even have a laugh with you sometimes. But I really appreciate Pat. And to be honest, like he's great with us. Like he might not be laughing and smiling and operating like maybe a Vanni Sartini and cracking a joke every other line, like when he was the coach of Vancouver. But Pat gives us so much information and tells us like how many minutes a guy is going to potentially play and stuff like this. He I really do appreciate how he spends his time with us, because a lot of coaches mail it in and or not a lot, but there are some who mail it in and don't really give you any information. Pat is the opposite. He's great with his time and makes the call worthwhile for everybody. And I think he ends up enjoying it by the end. I could be wrong on that. Maybe he puts on a front, but that's at least how I'm interpreting it.
No, I'm right there with you. I've the limited time that I've gotten to speak with Pat and interview Pat, Pat's great. He will, and you're right about that. Come prepared, because he'll let you know about it right away. But he's certainly what's that guy's name in the Rose City? Who cares?
Are you a Liverpool fan? Is that why you're dismissing Phil Neville that way, or no?
No. I wouldn't do that. No. I'm a villain at heart. So
you're a villain. Okay.
Yeah. But no, I know that you love. You kind of went into the match, how FC Cincinnati was performing, stuff like that. One of the most interesting things that I find, because I'm not on that side, the broadcasting side, is how you guys come up with the boards. Like, especially if you're covering a team for like the second or third time and stuff like that. Is there any like can you give us like a sampler of a nugget that may or may not make it on the show?
Yeah, I've got about 17 boards pulled up here. Let's pull up FC Cincinnati. My computer decided to absolutely crap out on me as I was signing on, so all of them actually got taken out. All right, so here we go. Okay, you want something that might not make it on the show? Okay,
Alvis Powell goal.
You know something? I was just looking at that. Do you know how many days it's been since Alvis Powell's last MLS goal? It's been more than 2,350 days since Alvis Powell's last MLS goal.
Oh my God!
Holy cow.
What's another one? Let's see here. Malik Pinto, played for the great Jim Barlow at Princeton, who's been there for more than 30 years. I only know that because I did a little bit of work at Princeton.
Awesome.
What else we got here?
How do you find this information?
It's funny. Oh, Kevin Denke. He has scored exactly the same amount of goals in a season that sort of got him this reputation for being this world-class goal scorer as Ugo Kuipers of the Chicago Fire. They both won the Golden Boots with 27 goals. Kuipers just happened to do it a couple of years before Denke, and one happens to be at a club that has good players around him and the other one doesn't, and is sort of like more highly rated. Yes. But it's just like going down any random rabbit hole that you guys will go down. But like, I just happen to like get paid to do it every week. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and then I'm like, okay, I just need to like put this into, it's like, It's just being a fan and just being like, okay, I'm going to click on, I'm on his Wikipedia. I don't get all my information from Wikipedia, but I'm going to look at Wikipedia. It's the easiest, like, initial, like, sort of conglomerate of information. And then I'll click on this team, and then I'll click on that, and they'll be like, oh, okay, those two guys, did happen to play with one another at this club. And I'm going to go take a look and see if they were ever on the field together at the same time, or I saw that they were in the same league. Maybe they played against each other. Maybe one of them scored against one another. Like, and sometimes I'm way more apt to want to go down that rabbit hole, in some games. And like you said, like, there's plenty of times where I don't even end up getting to it. And truth be told, we have a lot of reads during our broadcast. I don't know if you guys have noticed that.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of it is balancing, like, getting a couple of lines in here and there from a storyline standpoint, making sure I'm on top of all of my reads and communicating with my producer, and then calling the game. Not in that order, but getting to some of these storylines I've noticed over the past 3 years has become more and more difficult to sort of throw in the odd stat. And so yeah.
Can I make a note for the producer?
Absolutely.
Not that I'm going to crap on MLS's production, because you guys do a great job. But maybe the first half next match read is a little bit weird, because that's the only critique I have. It's like FC Cincinnati is playing so and so next week, and it's like 25 minutes into this match. That's the only critique
I never thought of it that way. I mean, like, I can just tell you from somebody who had worked with the Chicago Fire for 3 years, and like, that's just ticket sales, and that's the ticket sales department in every single club being like, these broadcasts were our main way to sell tickets, whether it's to put up the QR code or whatever, and game day revenue is huge, and so that's just, we need to get butts in seats.
Find that in there.
So yeah.
Well, as we wrap
noted,
this
noted though, Justin. Thank you. I'll definitely pass that along.
Yeah, pass that on. Justin's weird critique.
You can laugh at me all you want, like in your little conference, your webinar or something like that. Just be like, this guy in Cincinnati, complete idiot.
Well, as we wrap things up, Tyler, thank you so much for your time, we look forward to hearing you on the broadcast on Saturday. Where can FC Cincinnati fans find you out there on the socials?
On the X machine at TN Terrens, TNTERENS. Same goes for Instagram. And I have a TikTok I haven't posted on in a while. I've tried to do some content there, but I've literally forgotten to press the record button numerous times in the booth when I'm trying to do that. I'm just not a content guy. It's just slips my mind.
Hey, but you're part of the younger generation. You should be in TikTok like all over the place. I mean, us old guys, we're still on Facebook.
You know something, Jose? I like, people say that to me all the time, but I just forget. I have TikTok, and I'll be caught doom scrolling a lot. But in terms of like creating the content myself, I'm not up for it, Jose. Not up for it. But anyway, thank you guys. Appreciate all the work that you guys do. This podcast is great, and big fan.
All right, thanks, Tyler. We will see you on Saturday.
Yep.
So that was Tyler Terrens of MLS Season Pass. He will be calling the match on Saturday, bobblehead night at TQL Stadium. If you are attending, I think it's a Gary the Lion bobblehead.
Yep, that's right. Yes.
So we don't want to move on without thanking all of our big supporters, our great supporters out there. If you would like to support Cincinnati Soccer Talk and help us make more content like this, head over to cincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. There you'll be able to sign up for our Patreon, and you can make a one-time donation, or Patreon does allow you to do subscriptions, which enter you into our Growler Cup as well. So that's a little bit of bonus content. We'd also like to hear back from you. If there's segments you want to hear, if you want me to shut up, let us know. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. I think I got that right off the top of the old dome here. Fellas, we mentioned Toronto, but before we get into that, I want to ask real quick. We're going to try to wrap this up in a nice little bow, but we're 5 games in all competitions so far this season. We are 2 matches into the MLS season. I am wondering, because FC Cincinnati spent a lot of money in this offseason to bring in Evander, to bring in Kevin Tenke. We've got Yu Kubo back. We've got Luca Orishano kind of back. Where are you? A temp check from each of you. Do you feel like Is FC Cincinnati meeting expectations? Are they not meeting expectations, or is it too early?
I think it's too early. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, other than the scoreline of the Philadelphia game, yeah, I think we are. I think if that would have been a 2-1 loss at Philadelphia in Super Park, the way that they performed in the first match, I mean, we know Mikelua and Gazdag are great, and for whatever reason, Ty Baribo has our number. But I think we're completely on track in my estimation. Maybe we wanted a win back at TQL against Montagua. Is that what we're going to argue about? But as far as the performances on the field, I think we have to, we've seen 5 matches, but we've seen them in 18 days. So pump the brakes a little bit. Evander joined the club 2 days before the Montagua game.
Yeah.
So that's I don't know if anybody knows this, but the 10 is a pretty important position for Pat Noonan squads. So let's just cool the brakes, make sure we get a central center back, get Orishano reacclimated, and have Evander more in sync with not only the front line but also his fellow midfielders, getting that relationship built, and the understanding of spacing and where they're going to be and when he can push forward or when he needs to drop back.
Yeah, and sometimes I tend to be not necessarily negative, but not overly optimistic. However, I mean, we have to step back. And you said it, Justin, we're just a few games into the overall season with CONCACAF Champions Cup and MLS. Most of this team has not even played preseason, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have new players, we have injuries, we have the whole Acosta drama. And then, on top of that, we have this very tight schedule. I mean, I went back and looked at my calendar, 5 games in 13 days, 6 going to come up in 17, and then following in 7 days in 20 days. That's a heck of a lot of games, and traveling too. So, I think some people need to just literally chill. We just started. We have a lot of new players and very quality players. Yes, Engel had a bad game. Okay, fine. Hopefully that doesn't repeat itself. But we had really great talent now, up and down the lines. We just need them to gel. We need to get a little bit more time, give Pat also time to just sync up all the different lines we have. And I think little by little, we're going to see what this team can actually do. Now, we're having the same conversation at the end of April, then, okay, we may be having a problem.
Exactly.
But I think right now, we're where we need to be, given all the challenges this team has had over preseason and what I already talked about. So that's kind of my quick 2-second.
I think for me, you kind of notice this. Evander is playing very well. He's got a goal and an assist in MLS play. He's got a goal and I think another assist in Champions Cup, but I could be wrong about that.
At least in the first game, he got a goal and assist. And
the thing is with Evander especially, because you see the difference with Denke, who came in early, had the whole preseason. I feel like he's got his feet under him, and he's playing pretty well. Evander is still playing well, but I think you could probably count on your 2 hands the number of actual training sessions that guy has had.
Yep.
Yeah.
From flying in immediately to Florida, immediately turning around, flying to Honduras, coming back, taking a rest day, match day, flying to Cincinnati, a little bit of training, match day, take a rest. You get it. He especially has not had time to actually have that kind of training session.
Correct.
That is about learning what the team is trying to do rather than preparing for the next match. And I think that is really kind of hampered him a little bit. But that being said, I'm not in any way, shape, or form disappointed in the way he's played. If anything, I think he has opened up Pavel Buka to kind of be this the surprising talisman that FC Cincinnati has. Going into the season, I would not have picked Buka to be our leading scorer in all matches, basically. I mean, he has come out of his shell, and I think part of that is because he's got a new number 10 to play off of.
Yes.
So
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and we've talked about this, right? Not having Acosta there has allowed others to step in.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that as the team gels.
yeah. And we were going to preview the Toronto match a little bit. I think we're running out of time. So visit Jersey Swap. Get that on all wherever fine podcasts are found. Jeff Tebbets does a great job, and he will be previewing that this week. I think actually it uploaded today, if I'm correct. So
It will be up in the morning.
It'll be up in the morning. You'll be able to find that. He will give you a great preview. Fellas, thank you so much for writing out this podcast with me as I take over the hosting reins.
Oh, it's been great.
Let's give our final thoughts as we head into another big couple of days of FC Cincinnati. Justin.
Yeah, so I think the most glaring thing that came out of Tuesday was, TQL Stadium and BMO Field are like two of the most intimidating atmospheres in MLS. That's FC Cincinnati, obviously, and LAFC. And then both of them fielded a team in front of 10,000 fans, perhaps, on a Tuesday night. I think there was a lot of knee-jerk reaction on that, but I think there is some negative truth in the frustrations about that. I think the time slot is the time slot. It's always been that problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always a midweek game. Somebody's got to play at 6:30, and then teams on the West Coast usually are disproportionately affected by time slot start times, right? Because they're trying to get that Eastern market. But I really think that, and I'm not a Leagues Cup basher by any means, but I think there's some truth. Jose could be. I like it. I think it's interesting. But I think one of the problems that Leagues Cup has presented is the kind of the lost novelty of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, right? I know that there's lower league teams. I mean, we saw like tonight, a U18 Cavalier squad versus Inter Miami is a sight to behold. There's no doubt, but you're usually looking for those Chivas, those Monterreys, those Cruz Azuls, the Tigres, and I don't think that's really become attractive to fans because every year we're guaranteed to play two of those Liga MX teams, and for the casual fan, I've even seen comments that say like this is just a money grab. And it's like the CONCACAF Champions Cup is like that's the premier, like on this hemisphere.
I would agree. I think the Leagues Cup is a money grab.
Yeah, Leagues Cup is money grab.
Yeah. But that's the problem, right? It's become synonymous now.
Yes,
anything with a title of CONCACAF has now become synonymous for this money grab, and I think that could be a problem as people start coming into the league. Because let's just be honest, there's not a whole lot of people that are up with a microphone in front of their face at 10 o'clock at night. There's not a whole lot of people that are willing to paint their body or marching down the street waving a banner and with a megaphone or spend $200 on a kit, right? There are casual fans, and the casual fans just cannot get into that. Like this idea of, another competition, but I don't really know what it is. I think there just has to be some way of really emphasizing the importance of CONCACAF Champions League without the MLS expecting CONCACAF to do that advertising. There's an idea.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So there's my soapbox. I'll step down.
that was a rant worthy of me, I think. Normally, I'm the one who gives those. I have thoughts, but I'll save those for later.
Sure.
Jose, final thoughts.
Well, I think I already talked a little bit about, where I think the team is. That's kind of one of my final thoughts. But, going into this weekend, I think there's a good opportunity to get a good result if, Pat moves this piece as well. And he always does. We know he does. And then I'm not as optimistic in terms of Justin, of what's going to happen down in Monterrey. Because while I've never been to that stadium, I mean, I have friends that just tell me, and I've seen it on TV, it is a tough place to play. And if we saw what we saw with Tigres with 7 or 8 of their key players out, and they start getting 1 or 2 back, I am not as optimistic. I'm hoping, because I would really like to see FCC continue. And if you guys remember in my write-up about this tournament, say, wouldn't it be cool to have a final Columbus Crew Cincinnati?
You put it out there in the ether.
Yeah,
Blame
Jose.
So yeah, that's it.
Feedback.
I mean, I think we can get a good result this Saturday, and hopefully we get something next Tuesday.
Yeah. My final thought, just there on Tuesday, I was very surprised at the size of the crowd. I don't know if it really was the 14,000 that they announced, but the Bailey was rocking. It was a great atmosphere for what it was. And this is the time of year for me as an FC Cincinnati fan that I think I'm at peak excitement. It's early. We're getting a lot of great games out, and then I would probably hit a lull around Leagues Cup, to be perfectly honest, and then ramp back up as we get the run to the playoffs. But it was just great to be out there and great to see everybody. I can't go this Saturday. I was bummed, but I was able to give my tickets to a friend of ours who they hardly ever get to go. And so she and her husband are super stoked. So just great to be able to go out to see games again. That's my final thought. Cool. So for Justin, Blair, Jose Guerrera, thank you so much. I'm Jason Ashcraft. We will see you Monday with another edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Bye, everybody.